guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to. Welcome to Weed to No Basis. Remember, if you're listening, if you're watching this, it's because you too have a Weed to No Basis. So today, on today's episode, this is part 3 of 3 in our what we call the Transcending the Turbulence. And what that means is this, is as we record this here in early 2019, is the CBD hemp, and I'm gonna go very, very granular here, the CBD hemp e-commerce entrepreneurial experience is challenging. So we've already had episodes recorded on social media, how to really transcend the turbulence around social media and get your message out in a very ethical and real way. We've talked to merchant processing guys, and if you're in the industry, you know that right now it's a headache. It's not impossible, but we talked to an industry expert, brought him on, and today we're talking with Javi. He's the director of demand generation at Liquid Web, and that's him. He's AKA El Tigre. And you'll have to message him and ask about that nickname. But Javi Cano is here from Liquid Web. So welcome to Weed to No Basis.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So give us a real quick, just a snapshot of what it is you do in and for the industry in your position.
Sure. So what Liquid Web is technically a web hosting company. So when you want to you have that idea or that store idea for the CBD entrepreneur, and they want to get their store online, putting that site online, getting the domain, and then having it live online with the images and the products and those things. We have web hosting plans that somebody can just kind of subscribe to, and they range from like as low as $29 a month up, depending on what your needs are. But we basically allow these CBD entrepreneurs to have an online presence for their store and help them drive traffic and obviously get sales. But the also important piece to it is that we are comfortable with having CBD brands and even like dispensaries as well hosting with us. We're completely comfortable with that. And then obviously, like you mentioned, the other kind of important piece to sell online obviously is the merchant account piece. So your guest the other day with Merchant X, we partner with them as well. And so it kind of goes hand in hand with, you need that merchant account, and that they'll give you that kind of connection to a gateway, and you kind of plug that in with your web hosting plan, and then you're ready to start selling online.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask a few questions to kind of dissect this, chop it up, and break it down. So and kind of just paint a little picture. So right now, like what we're talking about, is a cannabis startup entrepreneur. Somebody wants to launch a CBD e-commerce, and what that means, because some of you might be so brand new, you're still trying to get a handle on all this. That means you have a CBD product, whether it's like a tincture or some gummies or pet treats, and you want to sell it online. That's specifically what we're talking about, because there's so many options out there. Like there's Shopify, there's BigCommerce, WooCommerce, there's Wix, there's all these, there's Strikingly, there's a 1,001, it seems like, options to get your web presence online. But what you're saying is that your company is comfortable with CBD brands and dispensaries. Is that not true then? And you're just from where you sit. I'm not asking you to give a broad kind of, this is what they think, here's what we think, but so not all of them are very CBD friendly then.
Yes, that's true. And that's something that I've talked about at previous like CBD expos is, when I go and speak, I'm trying not to try to sell our brand from the get-go, but what I tell the attendees is, take a look at the terms and conditions and the acceptable use policies that other, like a Shopify or BigCommerce has, and then also kind of just ask around. I've heard stories. I'm sure you've heard stories too of folks who are on the Shopify and end up just kind of getting kicked off unexpectedly. That's basically what started my endeavor into kind of being an advocate for the CBD entrepreneurs, because of that pain that they were feeling of they were just starting to get going with this kind of livelihood and helping other people, and then just kind of unexpectedly getting shut off, and then having to scramble to find another option available. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? This is I'm going to come back to that in just a second, but this can't go without saying is you're in Texas. Like we're recording this, y'all. We're that was total. You couldn't have timed that better. So y'all, we're recording this from San Antonio, Texas, and I don't know about you, but I get this question a lot because technically we're cannabis entrepreneurs. Do you ever get people say, "How are you doing this in Texas?" Or you ever heard that question?
I think some people are kind of surprised that when at the last show in like Indianapolis that we were at, they were like, "Wow, you're from Texas. That seems so such a conservative state to kind of be an advocate proponent for cannabis and CBD." But yeah, we're totally cool with it.
Yeah, and again, I asked that for a reason, guys, because I stake my left pinky on the fact that San Antonio is an emerging epicenter of CBD hemp specific businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups, and they're doing it. Liquid Web is doing it. They're doing it in a big way. So you guys, and I guess to tie into that question is, you don't just serve San Antonio-based e-commerce companies or Texas-based. Your company can provide hosting services, among other things, to a variety of companies across the entire U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're actually global. So we're worldwide, and for CBD folks, that could be anywhere in the U.S. And it could, but we also obviously we serve we have like 40,000 customers worldwide, and it's a variety of different types of businesses, whether it's a small medium business or kind of large enterprise business, and just different industries. It's a whole kind of a spectrum of types of companies that we serve. This one just kind of has the CBD space and cannabis space just has a really a need. They have a pain that we solve for, and that's what kind of gets me really kind of passionate about of trying to help these folks, because they're honestly just trying to help other people as well. So that's kind of where I kind of get my motivation, my passion to help these people.
Yeah. So let me wind back even more, just so the folks out there have a clearer vision of what exactly Liquid Web does. So if I'm an e-commerce, I'm somebody who wants to start a CBD-based business. I want to sell it online, and I go to what the traditional options are. Nothing bad about any of these options, folks. I'm just telling you, we're in a turbulent time, and that's why we're bringing on folks who are supporting CBD and hemp companies. So if you're listening to this and you're from any of these companies, this is not a derogatory statement. This is just where we're at. So we've launched sites on Shopify. We've also launched websites on like a Strikingly, which is a real simple plug and play. We've also used Wix. So really, again, this isn't all that you guys do, but what you're saying at Liquid Web is you provide a hosting service, a place where that early stage or even established CBD e-commerce entrepreneur can launch their website, their physical presence in the virtual universe, and your company is supportive of them, right?
Yeah. And so the thing to consider, especially if you're just getting started in the CBD space, is where you're going to put your store is probably one of the most critical decisions that you're going to make. Those like Shopify, BigCommerce, Wix, those are what we call like proprietary based SaaS solutions or software as a service solutions. So what that means is they provide a simple turnkey kind of solution for somebody to get a store online, maybe within an hour and a half or within 2 hours. You can put your products up and get going from there. Obviously, with CBD, it's a little bit more complicated with some of the things you have to do there. But what ends up happening, and we've seen this happen multiple times, is whether it's a Shopify or some of those other proprietary platforms, is if for some reason they determine that you're violating their acceptable use policy or terms and conditions, and you get booted off essentially, you have to find a new home. So if you have to move over to let's say a Liquid Web, the platform that we promote for CBD brands is like our managed WordPress, managed WooCommerce solution. And so with WordPress and WooCommerce, that's open source. You can actually host that anywhere. It doesn't have to be with us. But what happens is that code that you have, that look and feel of the website you have at Shopify or BigCommerce, that theme is theirs. That's their property. That's their code, website code. So you can't easily just get that look and feel and then bring it over here. You can take your product catalog, your product images, some of the order data that you've had historical, and you can move that database over, but the look and feel is going to have to get completely re-architected. And if you want the same look and feel, then you're going to have to hire like an external agency to do the replatforming and get that same look and feel. And that's probably on average that runs about $4,500 for just to kind of get that moved over. So that's something that CBD startups have to really take into consideration. And then the other piece too is kind of like the growth, right? It's like they make it attractive where it's like, oh, you can start off at $29 a month for the Shopify basic plan. And the other part too is that hitting on that merchant processing piece real quick is depending on what you negotiate with your merchant processor. So if you're a startup right now, let's just round it to 7% transaction rate, right? On that $29 plan as of today, Shopify is going to add on 2 additional points per transaction. So instead of 7%, it's 9% now. So 2% goes to Shopify, the other 7% goes to your merchant. With Liquid Web or with any other type of WordPress, WooCommerce solution that you go with, the provider that you choose isn't going to layer on points on top of it. It's just whatever you negotiate with your merchant processor. So if it's 7%, that stays at 7%, and then all you end up paying to a hosting provider is just the monthly hosting fee. So with our managed WooCommerce plan at Liquid Web, it's $39 a month, or if you do a WordPress, the lowest we have is $20 a month, and that's it. Like that's all that you end up paying for. So that's just one of the things that a CBD startup entrepreneur would want to just make sure of is just like, if I am going to choose the Shopify route, am I going to be okay with like a potential disruption in my business, and then, or if I have to move over, am I going to be chancing it with having to pay an agency to kind of help me replatform over if I have to?
Yeah, chancing it. You just said that, and as I'm taking my notes, here's the thing, guys, is on this show, again, Weed to Know basis, we talk to our audience is people who are on a Weed to Know basis, but really you're in the startup phase, you have an idea you want to take to market, you want to build a business. And two of those words that Javi just said they're so critical, and he said chancing it, and that's what we're against. We don't want you to chance it. And there's so many things that are happening right now that if you, the startup entrepreneur, or even if you're established, if you're not strategizing and building a solid foundation for your company, you are chancing it. And in one of our last episodes, we even had one of the experts say, I think allude to kind of house of cards. And here's the truth is, as we've kind of gone down this turbulent series, this transcending the turbulence, is I shared the story of our merchant processor years ago at a company we co-founded. We were shut down on Cyber Monday. And here's the pros and the cons of that, guys. Well, there's not really any pros, but if you're chancing it, and that happens, like it happened to us, you're dead in the water. You cannot transact. You cannot make sales. It doesn't matter how cool your website is. It doesn't matter how awesome your full spectrum tincture is, or how great your photography is on your website. If you can't make money, guys, you're a for-profit entrepreneur. If you can't make money, you're dead in the water. So chancing it. I don't understand, and I'm being very direct with you guys. I don't understand why somebody would jump into an industry or a business without understanding the pieces that are going to make you better. But what I'm really alluding to, and we're going to do an episode as Javi's talking, I'm getting some ideas, but it's the how versus who. And in my experience working with a lot of startups is a lot of entrepreneurs, especially cannabis, CBD, hemp, right now, they jump in with their idea and they're asking the wrong question. You're asking, how do I do this? You're asking, how do I get a merchant that won't shut me down? You're asking, how do I find a web developer that will do something? You're asking how, and that's the wrong question. I'm telling you this right now. You should be asking who. And that's why we're bringing on experts like this, because instead of asking how, ask who is going to help me transcend that turbulence so that I can build a successful and sustainable business. Because you don't want to be like us and get shut down on Cyber Monday and not be able to make sales on arguably the busiest shopping day of the year. Cyber Monday. That is an e-commerce centric shopping day. We got shut down because we asked, how do we tackle this, instead of asking, who do we align with to get us through that? Think about that, guys. Think about that as you've listened to this series and as you listen to Javi. So let me bring it down to in the weeds, if you will. So entrepreneur wants to launch a website and they're looking at the traditional places. Nothing against them. The Shopifys, the Woos, these, and they're still, as evidenced by, I just got some messages personally of a Shopify CBD e-commerce account that was shut down. Pulled the plug, like dead in the water. So again, just to be clear, what you're saying is Liquid Web, your company supports these entrepreneurs. Your company provides them that stable platform, if you will, that stable foundation, put another way, so that their presence in the e-world, the internet world, if you will, they don't get shut down, right?
Yeah, correct. So as long as, in terms of our terms and conditions and acceptable use policy, it's like, as long as you aren't violating those things, which basically means like, the federal rules, like less than 0.03, THC, as long as you're following those guidelines and following the law, it's completely fine. I think some of kind of going back real quick to the chancing it part, some of those Shopify ones that, we hear that get shut down, sometimes they try to kind of fly under the radar. So Shopify has their own payment processing platform called Shopify Payments. And so that pricing, I believe, is like 2.9%, but that's like if you're selling t-shirts. And so there's some CBD brands that they're getting started, or they're just getting started, and they think that maybe they can just, if I don't sell too much, maybe they're not going to find me. They'll find you. And that's where we hear these stories of like them getting, I got shut down all of a sudden. Like whether it's Shopify or any other kind of payment processor, you just try to Stripe or Braintree or whatever it is, and you try to fly under the radar, like they will find you. Like they always will end up finding you, and then that's when we hear these stories. So that's the thing. It's like, can you are you are you comfortable handling that risk of that disruption to your business?
Yeah, and it happens. To be clear, we did it. Like I shared, we did it. We were on one of those traditional processors, and we kind of had an inkling of, we could be found out. But honestly, I'm going to be clear. I didn't know what I didn't know about the whole merchant processing many years ago. Now that I know, I'm like, we should have set ourselves up for success in the beginning, even though it could be a little more time consuming. It could be maybe a little more expensive up front. But here's the thing, guys, is the expense today is well worth the being shut down tomorrow. But how did you guys get started in this? I want to tap into something that as I'm thinking through this is very unique, because Liquid Web hasn't traditionally been in the CBD hemp e-commerce space, right?
Yeah, that's
so. If you don't mind, share a little bit about what happened.
Yeah. So I guess the story how it started. We've been in business for since '98, so like 20 years.
So been around for a while.
We've been around for a very long time. Yeah.
They've been around for a while.
And it happened sometime in this summer of 2018, summer of last year. We started acquiring some e-commerce customers as new customers from Shopify, and so I asked some of our sales guys who were handling those ones, and asked them why are it was a couple of CBD ones that happened just back to back, and I just asked them hey, why are these ones what's happening? And so they said, oh, well, yeah, they came from Shopify. They got shut down, and they asked us if we're comfortable with hosting them, and so yeah, we are. But then they also asked us hey, can you recommend us recommend a payment processor or a merchant processor for us? And so that's kind of where the light bulb went off, because again, we've been around for a very long time. We do have relationships with merchant processors. So that's where I was like, well, I'm pretty sure we can reach out to some of the partners that we have. But then that's when I reached out to you last year because I knew that you were in the space. I've been following you around. We've known each other for like 10 years, right?
Yeah,
but
I have.
but I saw that you made your way to the cannabis CBD space, and so that's when I messaged you and was just like, hey, is merchant processing like and kind of hosting like a pain point for the space? And you replied, I remember you replied back like, yes, it's like one of the largest. It's like the largest problem that we have. Do you have a solution for it? And so I told you like, well, hold on, let me see what I could do internally. So I just wanted to make sure that with our, obviously our executive team, our board, that we're comfortable going down this route. One, and then two is like, okay, let's go ahead and find some CBD friendly merchants that we can work with, and that's kind of how we end up talking with MerchantX as well. So that's kind of our let's say our go-to. We have a couple other ones as well, just kind of depending on the needs of the startup or existing CBD brand. And we basically kicked it off our whole initiative in October of 2018 at your Talk Hustle Connect event, which was fantastic. It was a small group of like, I don't know, just about 100 entrepreneurs, and the message resonated very well. And so we've gone to subsequent like CBD Expo shows in Orlando, Indianapolis, and we'll be in Seattle in June, and speaking there as well. And the message just for the audience has really resonated. And so what we're working on too is just to like, one, it's like, yes, we're welcoming, but then two is just like, how can we make it more turnkey for these entrepreneurs who are starting up and they're wearing a lot of hats. So, and then being like a website designer, developer is not their forte. So it's like, how can we make it simpler for them? Because like WordPress WooCommerce it's completely customizable, and it can kind of be overwhelming when you log in for the first time and you see the dashboard and you're just like, where do I start? Where do I go to start? So that's where we have obviously page builders. We have a bunch of premium things that come with our plans that make it a lot easier, but we're looking to make it even easier, to make it even more turnkey, where you have that experience where it's like, I sign up, I can use a template, and the template's already kind of set up for me to just drop in pictures and my products and prices, and plug in my payment gateway, and then start selling right away.
Yeah, there's a secondary lesson here, and that's I was glad Javi shared the kind of their genesis story, because the secondary lesson here is something that we've talked about on the show and in our course on greenseedcannabisco.com. If you go there, that's where we really have curriculum-based LMS or learning system, where we take the cannabis startup idea to launch and then to scale. But the secondary lesson, guys, is this, and as he's talking, I hope you caught it, is they recognized a gap. They recognized a pain point, to use Javi's exact words, in the industry, and they didn't, my words, not his, you and Liquid Web didn't come out of the gate with a big, huge product suite. You came out of the gate and you tested it. Mm-hmm. And the testing started with, I remember you sent me a message about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Is this a problem? And in other words, you begin to tease out identifying the problem, really fine tuning, maybe some sort of minimal viable product. And then you started speaking. You did speak, I remember, about a year ago at our event. And you have then validated that there is a problem, and you've built a solution as a result, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's something to take note, guys, as you're thinking about jumping into the industry, is it's beyond the plant, it's beyond the bud. And as evidenced by the story Javi literally just shared, the genesis of this suite of services that is now positively impacting the e-commerce CBD hemp entrepreneur. Think about that for a second. Hit pause if you want, make a note, but go back and listen to that. They recognized a gap. They designed a minimal solution. They pushed their message out, realized there was traction, and they built a product, a digital product that would then help people, or products. They built their business around that, not their whole business, but I love that. I didn't want that to be lost on you guys, the listeners, is that the ideas can come to life if they're done the right way. So here's the other kind of message I want to also let you guys know on in the WTKB world is don't don't try to skirt the system. Don't try to, and again, guys, we did it in the past because we didn't understand, but there's no excuse for you guys out there to build a house of cards. There's no excuse knowing what you know, empowered with the stuff, info that Javi's bringing in Liquid Web and our other two Turbulent Series members, Merchant X and the guys at Uptown. There's no reason for you to be building a business on an unstable or shaky platform because you don't want that Cyber Monday event to happen to you. You don't, guys. You literally lose money. You lose money and potentially can be shut down for weeks. So, so your next speaking gig is in Seattle, right?
Yes, in Seattle at the end of June.
Nice. And there's the other beautiful part of this, guys, is because of the problem that they have been able to solve is you're being invited to speak at conferences all over the U.S. about the business, what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just teaching the startups who go to those or people who are looking to just get into the CBD space from the beginning and just letting them know, like, hey, here are the roadblocks that you're gonna have to face, starting from just getting a business bank account, the merchant processing, the importance of choosing the right e-commerce platform. But then once you have all those things set up, then it's like, well, then how do I drive traffic to my site? And what are the things I can do marketing-wise? Because there's also roadblocks and restrictions, things that you can skirt, but you shouldn't skirt online to drive traffic. And then that's the other piece I'll be hitting on at the June show.
Yeah, it's so guys, again, I can't beat this dead horse enough, is that the opportunities are endless. I mean, technically, if El Tigre wanted to, he could launch a speaking career. And I'm serious, if you guys think about it, he could literally, guys, write a book on how they solved this problem, how they identified it, and then launch a speaking career around this solution they provided. And these are businesses that didn't exist before. And I mean, that's the truth. You were in Indiana about a month ago. You're going to Seattle. You spoke here in San Antonio. And that, I'm guessing, didn't exist over a year ago.
No, it didn't. So it's
love it.
Yeah, it's been a great. It's great just helping people, like, and educating them, like, hey, don't make these kind of mistakes that, or just lessons learned, right? Just sharing that information. I think it's really valuable, and I enjoy doing it.
It is. How much do you deadlift?
Last time I checked, I think it was 455. Yeah.
That's 455 pounds, right? 455 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's like over two of me. That's dang. I was just randomly curious because I've known Javi for, like you said, like over a decade, and we actually met way back in the day at CrossFit. And so, whenever you meet fellow CrossFitters or even just folks who work out, it's like, what's your deadlift? Mm-hmm. What's your Fran time? What's this? And so that was a random question, but anyway, that was just a nice little kind of chopping the ice up a little bit.
Strong.
So, what's next for you, and what's next for Liquid Web?
What's next for me is just, again, continuing the educational piece to it, trying to, again, make it easier for these CBD brands to get started, and luckily with our partnership with Merchant X for the merchant processing side, and then again, kind of developing some easier turnkey solutions for the store owners, and then as well as educate them. I think the next kind of step is the things that they can do to drive traffic. So from an SEO perspective on the technical and kind of link building side, and then as well as kind of like the ways they can optimize for conversions on their storefront or on their website, ways to like be able to capture email information at the very least, and best practices around that. And then obviously that opens up to email marketing, which is also extremely important for a CBD brand, because again, they're very limited on the advertising options they can do for now. And so that's probably the next, in terms of kind of content production, speaking, things I'll be talking about, are those things. So kind of like build their brand, and increase their online sales. And then as well as, we work with brick and mortar as well. So what are things they can do to drive foot traffic to their site? How can they leverage both their online and their offline, increase both of those sales? That's kind of the next things that'll be coming up from myself and from Liquid Web.
As evidenced by what Javi just said, is they're still developing product services. They're here to support you guys. They're here to support us, honestly. They're here to support anybody's CBD hemp e-commerce and brick and mortar. So how can folks get a hold of you?
Sure.
Get a hold of you, or what's your contact info?
Sure. So, people can feel free to call me or text me. My cell it's 210-788-2409. Or you can also just find me on Instagram. Message me there. It's at Javi, Javi, Canna, Canna. So kind of like Javi Canna, kind of like cannabis,
Gotcha.
So that's my Instagram handle. But yeah, so people startups reach out to me on Instagram as well, and just kind of ask, we go through the same kind of questions. I ask them what they want to do, and tell them, like, I was like, well, I was looking at Shopify. That comes up quite a bit. And when I explain to them, hey, here's the differences between doing like a proprietary SaaS versus open source, like a WordPress WooCommerce, and so that kind of opens their eyes, like, wow, that was extremely helpful. And there's also, if anybody reaches out to me, there's a great link that I have there's some website called like e-commerce platforms that has a calculator for Shopify. So you can set the parameters of, like, I'm using an external merchant. Here's my rates. My transaction rate, like the percentage plus the cents. And here's about how much volume I'm expecting to do a month. You plug that in, and then it shows you, like, what your monthly pricing is actually, like how much you're going to be paying actually, which is, I think it's a great tool, because I don't think people take that into consideration when they just choose it. They just kind of choose it because of simplicity, but they don't see kind of all the additional costs. So if there's additional features that you want to add to your Shopify store, for example, and I'm not trying to bash them purposely, but you have to pay for a lot of those extra kind of things that you want to, little kind of functions and plugins you want to do to your store. WordPress is kind of the same way too, where there are some things that you will have to pay for, but again, kind of like promoting ourselves, we have at least like 4 different premium plugins for like cart abandonment, landing page builder, customer analytics, and like a product search as well, that are premium. So like normally you have to pay at least $100 annually for those things. They come included in our monthly plan, and I believe all those premium ones start off at our $99 a month WooCommerce plan, which is a fantastic deal, and it also includes SSL, which I know that's maybe a little technical, but that secure, when someone goes to your store and they see the little lock icon on there, that's basically what that is. If you were to buy that standalone, that's another maybe like $120-ish standalone. So like all those things come included in there, because we have direct partnerships with with those vendors, and so we're able to like get it at a really great cost and price for ourselves, and then be able to translate that over to the end customer.
Gotcha. They do a lot. They put you on the footing to success, basically. So I know that for some of you all, a lot of these terminologies and things that it may be new, but it's a matter of empowerment. It's a matter of if you're serious about launching something responsible, ethical, sustainable, CBD e-commerce or brick and mortar, then it's important that you know this stuff. You've got to know this stuff. There's honestly, these are my words, nobody else's, but there's no excuse for any entrepreneur in this space now to launch a business on a house of cards. No excuse. And I'm just going to tell you that, because we personally at not only Weed to Know Basis, but even Green Seed Cannabis Co. we'll get calls of people who they basically tripped and fell and they need help. And it's like, but you should have known that. You should, honestly, guys, you should know these things. The problem is it's easier than ever to start something in CBD and hemp, easier than ever. And it's just as easy to fail, which is why we're bringing you this series. So again, guys, Javi's contact information, it's his cell phone, like legit. Not many people do, honestly, guys, that the lost art of human connection and touch, it's a lost art. It's 210-788-2409. Hit him up on Instagram. Send him messages, guys. And it's Javi Canna. It's Javi. I'm spelling it like it's Canna. And yeah, he's going to be in Seattle. And you know what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to bring you into our private mastermind group and just do just a real dissection of like literally, what do we need to know? How do we get there? And how can Liquid Will help? So would you be open to that, coming into our private mastermind group?
I'd love to.
Cool. So we're going to do that. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that loud, but if you're in our private mastermind group, if you're not there, you should probably hit us up and jump in today. But really appreciate your time.
Yeah, and just one more thing is if people want to get more information about, if you're considering using WordPress, WooCommerce, or other types of platforms, we have a great blog at liquidweb.com/blog. And you can just kind of hover over to the right and click on WooCommerce, and we have a ton of e-commerce resources there that covers, like I mentioned before, email marketing, SEO, and it's all things that are it's not worded specifically for CBD, but it's very applicable to the CBD startup or existing CBD store owner.
Yeah, guys, we're setting you up for success. That's our mission. Is if this is beyond just being opportunistic and trying to make a few sales around this hot new product. This is about really helping people. Remember, you're not in the business of selling a CBD product. You're in the business of helping people be better. That's the business you're in, and you can take that to the bank. Javi, I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Hey, remember, guys, if you're listening to this, if you're here right now, then you too are on a weed to know basis. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Bye.